As most of us gamers can surely attest, with this being our favorite hobby to indulge ourselves in, there often comes a time where we bite off a little more than we can chew. Whether it's companies dangling a shiny new toy in front of us, or that game that we've been eyeing for a while finally goes on sale for a price that's oftentimes too good to pass up on.
Cha-ching! Thanks, buddy.
And as such, we find ourselves buying far more games than we can likely, unfortunately, ever finish in one lifetime. Which leads to the creation of the dreaded backlog. An entity that becomes so massive it threatens to swallow us whole. Okay, seriously. Backlogs are something that a lot of us have, some bigger than others. Out of the roll the footage. And as we get older, we oftentimes start to value our time a little bit more than we used to. And games that we play that we're not really fully enjoying, that we otherwise may have pushed through back in the day, we now find ourselves stopping to think, is this something I want to continue putting time into? And as such, may shelve that title, for the time being, or even permanently. Today, I bring to you 5 games that, for one reason or another, I have dropped. Some titles I plan to pick back up at some point in the future, and others, well, I guess only time will tell. What are those titles? How badly are you guys gonna judge me? Well, let's get started, shall we? With an easy one first. Since a recent sequel did just come out, I felt this game was very apt to bring up. It's not an RPG or a jrpg, but I still think it has enough recognition that most people around here will at least vaguely know of it. And that is the infamous Stalker series. Now, as a huge fan of Bethesda's Fallout games, from the atmosphere to the world building to the gameplay, this series really did seem like a more hardcore version of Fallout. And everything about it, from the exploration to the environmental hazards to the creepy weird monsters that you encounter, looting of various POIs, and just the overall aesthetic of it really appealed to me. But I started the game up, played about an hour, fought my first couple of monsters, looted a couple things, talked to some NPCs, encountered some weird floating elemental radiation thing, and I put the game down and just never returned to it. Now, it wasn't because I wasn't interested. I think it was just not the right time or place for that title, as I was kind of just dipping my toes into it just to check things out and see if it was something that I would be interested in continuing at some point in the future. And well, with the current release of Stalker 2 and the tiny little snippets I've seen of various people, mainly of playing the game, I might pick this series back up sooner rather than later, as it has been many years since I've given the game a shot. Now, moving over to the next title, this one is kind of cheating, but I figured I'd include it anyway. The second title that I've dropped is unfortunately Daybreak 2. Now, for any of you who are new around here, as far as the Falcom sphere goes, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't enjoy the story, or oh, he got to that section and it drained him emotionally. No, actually, the reason's actually a lot simpler. It's just the fact that I got a review code for a certain game called Reynatis, shameless plug, and as I am currently playing through the East series on the channel as well, it was kind of one of those things where I looked at it from the perspective of, well, I don't want to drop East 2. I'm having a lot of fun creating those episodes, and Reynatis is definitely a shorter game, much shorter than Daybreak 2, so it was really more of a time management situation than a me not enjoying the game situation, because I absolutely plan to go back to the game, probably with the official English release coming out on February 14th. If it'll be day and date or maybe a little bit later than that, who knows? But as of right now, Daybreak 2 has been officially dropped. Now on to a little bit more of a controversial title. My third pick is the beloved Tales of Berseria. Now, put those pitchforks away, alright? This situation is entirely on me, because at the time, when I gave Berseria a chance, I was fresh off of Tales of Zestiria, a game which, hot take, I kind of enjoyed. More than other people, it seems. It's not my favorite Tales game, but I had fun with it. But at the time, I was very much into watching Let's Plays. I still am, but it was more so back then. So I was bouncing around between a bunch of different Let's Plays. I played through the first couple hours of Berseria, so I had a decent grasp on the gameplay. I really liked the atmosphere of the game, how different it felt from previous Tales games. But because I was fresh off of Zestiria, which that game was like somewhere around 70 or 80 hours, I think, as far as my playtime, and I was knee-deep in like 3 different Let's Play series, and I had watched 2 other Let's Play channels play through the beginning of Berseria just to see their initial impressions, and that caused me to unfortunately get burned out on the Tales series as a whole. I had booted up Berseria fully intending to keep on chugging along, and my desire to play was non-existent. So that one was definitely my bad. And I do fully intend to go back to this game at some point. As I know, as far as a Tales game, it is one of the better ones. And I know there's a lot of Velvet fans out there too. Looking at you, Kevin. Now, onto the fourth title. This one really hurts. Because this is a game that everything about it I loved. From the graphics, to the music, to the gameplay, to just how everything was presented. And so when I finally got around to giving this game a proper chance, and giving it a couple more chances, I finally have decided that, you know, maybe it's time I shelve the game. Because at this point in time, I'm not enjoying it anymore. And that game is, unfortunately, Octopath Traveler. I think my biggest issue with this game, aside from the fact that the character stories aren't connected, and it can feel a little wonky at times in terms of their various stories, having the characters there but not actually interacting with anything in any meaningful way. I don't count the little party talk segments either. Those aren't even bare minimum of what should have been in the game. But my biggest issue has actually just been the gameplay. Over time, it just gets really stale and really boring. Especially the random fights. They can take upwards of like 5 minutes. It's just the same song and dance every time. Up, I gotta hit their weaknesses, I gotta break them, then I buff everybody, and then I unleash all their super abilities to hopefully wipe them out. And it's the same thing over and over and over, and what this game desperately needed is some kind of turbo feature for the gameplay, or at least an auto battle feature. Just to alleviate not even alleviate the grind, but just the weight. Because some of those character stories, you gotta grind your characters quite a bit, and even in the higher areas. Like, I went to an area that was like 5 levels above me, and I was beating the enemies no problem, but the amount of experience I was getting was not worth it for how much of a pain it was to beat them. But exploring the game world and the characters' stories themselves on their own were interesting, which is why I hate to drop the game, and I would like to say that, oh, maybe at some point in the future I'll go back to it, but I look at it now, and I tried to, even the other day, I tried to force myself to play it, and I had zero motivation. I stared at the screen, I got into a random battle, and I just went, yeah, I don't want to do this. That's always the most unfortunate thing when it comes to playing a game, especially one that, for all intents and purposes, you should enjoy. And I think my ultimate issue with the game, what I wish it could be, I wish the game was just an HD 2D Bravely Default. That's what I feel like I wanted Octopath to be. Now, I have heard that Octopath 2 fixes a lot of the issues of the first game as far as the characters not being as connected. So maybe I'll pick that game up at some point, and maybe that game will win me over, and I'll eventually go back and finish the first game. But for now, this is a game that I don't even want to think about anymore. Now, before we get into the final game, probably the most controversial title on this list, I wanted to bring up an honorary mention, and that is Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. Wow, Cyrus, you're really allowing DLCs and expansions into this category? What are you, taking a page out of Jeff Keighley's book? Wow, Adol, that's kind of a low blow even for you. I mean, I'm calling it an honorary mention because even I know that it shouldn't go into a main category. But I at least wanted to talk about it. You know what? That's a good point. That's at least a better excuse than what old Jeffy boy came up with. So I'll let it slide for now. Thanks? Alright, man, you can continue. I appreciate your graciousness, my liege. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. Before you get on my case, yes, I did play through all the story bits of this game. So I have seen all of the important points. Well, okay, most of them. The thing that I never finished was the organization data fights, and by extension, Yozora, the secret boss fight. At the time of me playing it, I was more in it for the story than the gameplay, so when I attempted to do the organization data fights, I only beat like 2 of them before I was like, you know, I'm good. I don't want to do these right now. And I have seen the Yozora fight specifically, and I know how crazy that is. And I honestly, I don't even know if it's something I could even beat. So, I'm very appreciative of people uploading the cutscenes to places like YouTube. Because it's like, yeah, I did beat Lingering Will, I did beat Young Xehanort, I did beat the secret boss fights, the other secret boss fight of Dream Drop Distance, the weird giant Pete thing, and the secret boss of Kingdom Hearts 3, the base game. So with enough time and, more importantly, patience, I probably could beat him, but I'd have to get there first. And as of right now, maybe when Kingdom Hearts 4 gets officially announced, we get an actual official release date, it'll light a fire in me and I'll go back and finish those, just for the fun of it. But for now, it's something that I have not done. And on to the last title, the main title. Ooh boy. That being Master Detective Archives Rain Code. As a massive Danganronpa fan, and specifically Spike Chunsoft fan, Rain Code was a game that I was very, very, very much looking forward to, especially because I love the aesthetic of detectives in video games. Kyoko Kirigiri from Danganronpa 1, Shuichi Saihara from V3, not even to mention other titles like the Ace Attorney series, or the legend Lloyd Bannings himself, and even the upcoming release of Deca Police. So being a detective-themed mystery murder kind of visual novel really should have ticked all my boxes, but there just was something about it, something about the characters, something about the world itself. Like, the visuals were great, and some of the detectives all the detectives themselves, the main ones outside of the MC, I really liked. I wanted to learn more about them. And I even greatly looked forward to eventually doing their little extra DLC episodes. But there just was something about the story, the overall plot, that just did not do it for me. And the actual detective segments themselves felt, I don't know, they just felt so easy. They didn't feel challenging at all. Like, some of the cases in Danganronpa were real head scratchers, whereas this one, I almost feel like, I don't know if they're too easy because I'm just so used to the formula at this point, or if the way they were presented just made things very obvious as far as who the killers were and what their motivations ended up being. And that's also the thing, is none of the bad guys, the antagonists, were, at that point, were very memorable. Like, I can't even recall any of their names at this point. And not even to mention the worst part of the game for me, Shinigami. She basically just felt like a more crude Junko, laid-back Junko. Which is funny because as far as Junko's character went, in the Danganronpa series, she was crazy and insane, but she was at least entertaining and fun. Shinigami just felt kind of weird with a lot of the innuendos, the vor, and the feet stuff, and it just felt like Kodaka's self-insert for his weird kinky fetishes, and I did not enjoy it at all. And I just unfortunately found her really annoying. And I know that supposedly the big twist at the end is crazy and insane, and that's ultimately the only thing causing me to hang on to this game, as far as me potentially going back and finishing it. And where did I leave off? I was infiltrating the mask guy was leading me around. Oh, we were going to like a secret underground lab or something. That's where I left off. And I will admit, like that part, it did seem like things were starting to ramp up in terms of the story coming to a head. So maybe I just need to push through a little bit more and it'll sink its hooks into me. But unfortunately, it is a game that, for now, I have dropped. And as far as the immediate future, I don't plan on returning to anytime soon. That's my list of 5 games that I've dropped. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it. If this video gets 100 likes, I'll make a part 2, and I'll have to think of some extra spicy ones for that one. Subscribe if you haven't already. You want to keep up to date on all of my future content. A very special thank you to all of my channel members and supporters over on Patreon. You guys are incredible, and you guys give me the opportunity to make content like this in the first place. So if anybody else is feeling extra generous, and they want to go above and beyond and support me in that way, feel free to check out any of the links below. My name is Cyrus. I've been your host for this video. It was a pleasure. Hope to see you again real soon. Peace out.
All right, what's next?